Alright class, if you are watching this video, it most likely means I'm in the throes of labor with my wife. So I apologize that I couldn't be here, but I did make this video just as a backup in case something were to occur. The intent of this is really just to kick off AST 5 and help relieve whatever anxiety it is that you have about the course and whatever you may have heard through the generations of pharmacy classes. So I used to just devote about 10 minutes to this kind of introduction, if you will, at the start of a regular class hour. I quickly realized we need one more time than that to just go over the course and what to expect, two, talk about the model that we use, and three, answer questions and just relieve any anxiety that you may have. So first things first, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. So I want to start by giving an overview of the course. This is really the least important information. You can find all of this stuff in the syllabus, but because it is different than AST 3 and 4, I felt I would go through it. So this course will consist of our traditional pharmacology lectures, which you're well accustomed to. These will be given via MediaSite. There will obviously be in-class sessions too, but they're optional. You can view the information on MediaSite if you like. But most of the time will be therapeutics content, and it will be covering or it will be done using the flipped classroom model via video teleconference. So these will be live streamed between Shady Grove and Baltimore. I will talk about the flipped classroom a little more in just a moment. Attendance for these class sessions is strongly encouraged. We're not going to have a lot of in-class content per se. That you're gonna be able to look at online. These aren't going to be on MediaSite or recorded, and so attending class is really going to be important for you to succeed and thrive in this class. While attendance is not mandatory, there are 8 unannounced quizzes, plus or minus 2. And so these quizzes will be at the beginning of class just as they were for AST 3 and 4. And the quizzes will cover basic pharmacology and pre-class materials. And I will elaborate more on what these pre-class materials are in just a little bit. And so these quizzes will account for 20% of your overall grade. Each quiz is 5 questions. That should be relatively straightforward and consistent with what you've previously had in the course. There will be 4 exams, each worth 20%. The final is cumulative. You'll also notice we, in order to try and help the learning process from exams and missed questions and things like that, we've actually implemented formal exam reviews that will happen during normal class hours, and I think this will be a good learning experience for you if you'd like to attend. It's obviously not required. So my question to you is, why are we flipping out? Why are we flipping out? And the collective we I'm talking about here is actually more instructors and faculty members. And when I refer to flipping out, I'm kind of doing a play on words, right? Why are we flipping our course? But then why are we flipping out in general, right? There's angst among NAPLEX pass rates and scores and MPJE pass rates and scores and how our students are performing, etc. And so this is largely why instructors are asking the question, what are we doing wrong, or what do we need to do differently? And I can tell you that a portion of us, and a lot of the cardiology faculty in particular, feel that this may be in part due to a lack of student engagement. And so the question then becomes, why is student engagement so poor? And personally, I boil these down to 2 main reasons. The first of these is an ugly thing called PowerPoint. I believe that PowerPoint has been taken from being a very useful tool to being a crutch that we rely on for our learning. And so often we get up, we show a PowerPoint that has 62 slides in a 50-minute class period, and it is chock full of information. And so you, as the learner, are passively consuming information from the PowerPoint slides. You flip through the slides, and you try to gain the most important materials from the slides and what was covered in class. I feel very strongly that PowerPoint, while it is a useful tool, should not be used as the sole means of learning. And I think I may have alluded to this earlier in the year, but I feel so strongly about it. It's one of my 10 commandments for teaching. Thou shalt not murder anyone by PowerPoint. That's the first reason I think we have student disengagement. I think this falls on us as instructors. I think we have done a poor job of engaging you and have used PowerPoint as a crutch. Not blaming students for this at all. This is what we have created, in my opinion. The second reason I think we have poor student engagement is because of MediaSite. MediaSite is, again, a useful tool. However, when it's used as the sole means of learning, it really backfires on us. And so I've actually shown you a study here just to kind of highlight the negative impacts that MediaSite, or lecture capture, as this study refers to it as, can have on student attention and knowledge attainment. And so this study, while I'm not going to go through the details of you and bore you with it, long story short, what they find in this study is that lecture capture was associated with worse student attendance, no surprise, but also had negative impacts on knowledge, retention, exam scores, overall performance, etc., compared to those who are actually in class, involved, and did not rely on MediaSite. And so while MediaSite can be useful, or lecture capture like I'm doing right now, right? I can't be in class because of a family issue, so I'm recording a video, right? That could be a useful tool, but I believe when we use it as the sole means of learning, we start to get in trouble. And so this is in part why you're not going to notice many PowerPoint slides in our course. You're also not going to notice, or you're not going to have the availability of MediaSite recordings. We're going to encourage you to be in class to do most of your learning. Now, we're not going to require it, but I think between the quizzes and not having things recorded, I do hope that you will attend class if you're going to succeed. Why else are we flipping out? We need to improve student comprehension. And one of the best ways to improve student comprehension, as much as we don't like to admit it at times, is by reading, right? We struggle with reading, so we don't want to read, but the fact is, if you struggle with reading, you need to read more to get better at it. And so with the flipped classroom model, it puts a greater emphasis on reading and reviewing pre-class materials. And so the hope is that this will improve student comprehension as well as student retention. So I've already alluded to the fact that we're really good at giving you all of these slides and recording them on MediaSite, and you passively consume them through MediaSite at 1.5 or 2 times speed while you're sitting at home and likely perusing some other website, right? And it produces very poor retention rates. After the exam, you purge the information and you don't recall it like you should. So this is also in part why we have comprehensive final exam in the course now. And then lastly, we need to improve our critical thinking skills. And what you'll find with the flipped classroom model is that much of our in-class time is going to be asking questions of you, kind of probing the answer, and you as a learner are going to be doing a lot of the teaching. You probably won't even realize it, but you will be. And this is really helps promote critical thinking skills. I want to walk through what the flipped classroom model looks like and help illustrate for you what a typical class session is going to look like. If we take our kind of lecture-based or traditional approach, before class, students should do a reading assignment or something along the lines of a pre-class reading related to the material. And we'll be very honest in that this usually doesn't happen. I'm guilty of this as well. As a student, I definitely didn't do my pre-class readings. During the class, the faculty very much lectures at you and tries to impart their knowledge onto you. It's a very passive way of consuming the material. And then after class, you're assigned some sort of homework or case or whatever it may be. All right, that is the traditional model that we're used to. The flipped classroom really does just kind of flip this approach. Before class, students are going to gain most of their exposure via readings, via videos, via guidelines, via supplemental outlines, podcasts. There's a number of means by which you can consume the information. And the fact of the matter is, most of the information that we're providing you in class is readily available elsewhere. And so there's no reason we need to get up here and tell you that which you can find elsewhere. And so we encourage, through very specific and direct pre-class assignments, you all to gain the knowledge of the material beforehand. Now I want to stop here for a moment and talk a little more on the pre-class assignments. As a course manager, I view my role to kind of oversee what these pre-class assignments are. And the last thing that we want, and that I encourage faculty to do, or I don't encourage faculty to do, is to post very large amounts of textbook readings or guidelines, right? So let me give you an example of something we would not want to do. Here is chapter 11 of your DePiro textbook on hyperlipidemia or VTE or heart failure. And we want you to read that whole textbook and come ready for pre-class quiz and to discuss in class, okay? I recognize that is probably not going to happen, right? We need to be more direct, and we need to give you all multiple sources that you can get the information from. And so I've encouraged our instructors and our faculty to use multiple types of sources for the material. So you'll probably notice that there are several class hours that have a video associated with them from, say, Khan Academy or YouTube or something like that, in addition to sections from a guideline. Notice I said sections and not an entire 162-page guideline document. I guess what it's boiling down to and what I'm getting at is that we are really striving to have direct, targeted pre-class assignments. And so with that, my word to you is to please do the pre-class assignments. You will be setting yourself up for success, and I think you will find that for the most part, it's not going to be an unreasonable amount that we're expecting of you. Now, once you've done the pre-class assignments, your in-class time is going to include a few things. One is the potential for a quiz, as we've already talked about. This is reviewing the pre-class materials that I just discussed with you. So it could be broad key take-home points from your readings, videos, etc. Again, as the course manager, I've been very direct that I don't want us to ask very nuanced, nitpicky questions from the text. These are going to be very overarching, broad questions. If we're treating atrial fibrillation, what are the two ways that we can treat it? Rate or rhythm control, etc. These are very broad questions that, assess general knowledge and understanding. And then the remainder of the in-class time is really a guided discussion or active learning techniques that you as the students will be directing a lot. So as faculty members, though we'll be leading and kind of guiding this discussion, you as the students will be doing much of the teaching. Okay? And so how can you be successful in a course like this? This is vastly different than anything you've probably done in school. And so I actually emailed all of the instructors and just asked them, like, what is the one piece of advice that you would give our students as they head into AST 5? And I think the single most important one, if I could kind of boil down everyone's comments into one, it would be disciplined. You are going to have 4 class hours of AST 5 on Tuesday, 3 hours on Wednesday, and 1 on Friday. And you will very easily find that if you wait until Tuesday morning or even Monday evening to do all of your pre-class readings or pre-class assignments, that it's going to pile up very quickly. And I'm telling you that I believe you should tell your time where to go rather than your time telling you where to go. And so I would encourage you to take small blocks of time out of several days in the week and direct that to your pre-class assignments. So, instead of waiting until Monday to do your readings for Tuesday and Tuesday to do your readings for Wednesday, I would encourage you to start them ahead of time. And you might be saying, well, if I do that, I forget the material by the time I go to class. And I'm going to touch on that in just a moment and give you a piece of advice and a tool that I think might be useful. And so just again, summing it up, be very disciplined in how you study and when you study. Please do not wait until the night before to do all of the material and expect to retain it and do well. Secondly, come to class ready to collaborate with classmates and engage in discussion. Thirdly, take notes during the in-class time. There's going to be points of emphasis that we as the instructors make and emphasize. And so I would encourage you to take notes, pay attention. I really think this will be helpful for you. And then fourthly, don't get behind. I will be very honest in that this is the course that students tend to struggle most with in the fall. And part of it's because it's at the end of the semester. I think the other part of it is it's difficult. It's a difficult topic matter, and there's a lot of topic matter with it. And so if you get behind, it's incredibly difficult to get caught back up. So I would encourage you, please don't get behind. I want to share with you the SQ4R approach to reviewing, in particular, readings. And again, this goes back to student comprehension. And so I feel this might be useful for some of you who are watching today as you're approaching your readings for the pre-class materials. And so this approach just helps you to come up with a process, right? And once you get the process down, it becomes a habit. And once you get the habit down, you should be golden. And so the S stands for survey. I would encourage you, before you do any of the reading, to look at the course objectives, or excuse me, the learning objectives for the particular topic. Once you've looked at the learning objectives, you'll have an idea of what it is you need to learn from the material. Then if you want to quickly skim the materials, you can, but I think at minimum you should review the objectives for that topic. Next, I would say jot down some questions that you have. Maybe you're going to be looking at, I don't know, say you're looking at shock, and you don't know what the difference in distributive shock or cardiogenic shock is. And so just jotting down some questions that you have, even though they might be very broad, even though they might seem very silly, I would encourage you to jot down those questions and see if you can answer them by the end of your readings. Then thirdly, we talk about the read, recite, record method. And what is this? Well, this entails you reading sections at a time. So say you have, say you have 10 pages of a DePiro text to read. Taking one section at a time and reading it. After you read that section, recite it. Essentially, give a synopsis of what it is you just read. Prove that you understand what you just read. And if you can adequately recite it, then record it. What do I mean by record? Take notes, highlight, key points, not recording the entire text, right? These are key points, key take-home things from the text. If you get to the end and you realize, okay, I really can't write down or recite what it is that I just read, go back and read the section again, okay? If you've sufficiently read and recited and recorded the information, the great news is that all you have to do is review your notes before you come to class. And so it no longer matters if you've looked at the material 5 days ahead of time. You have your notes that you can refer back to and review before class. Okay? So this is the SQ4R method to reading and understanding kind of what it is you're reading and boiling it down to a manner that is more manageable. There are many other things that you can look at and use as reading tools. This is just one of them that I think you might find handy, but you're welcome to explore others. All right, just a few other housekeeping things. For students who are going to be absent, we will not be making up quizzes in the course. So, for example, say you're out for a conference and we have a quiz. You will not make up that quiz. We will just throw that quiz out, and your total quiz score for the course will be out of one less. So instead of being out of 8 quizzes or 9 quizzes, it would be out of one less than that. So this should keep everything fair, should keep things at a minimum as far as makeup work. If you're out, you're responsible for getting the material for what happened during class that day. Again, keeping in mind that most of your knowledge of the material comes before class. So there's not a whole lot that we can give you as instructors. But I would encourage you to touch base with a fellow student or peer and just ask for their notes. Class recordings, I already mentioned there are no recordings in this course. I should say outside of your pharmacology lectures or perhaps a specific exception or two if a faculty member has to be out of town. That being said, you are not permitted to record the class sessions. I've asked all of the instructors, and by and large, everyone is against recording the lectures. And so if you're caught doing so, that will be in violation of the honor code. So please, let's not even go there. There are a student or two who are allowed to record for ADA accommodations, and you're responsible for reaching out to the instructor about doing that. And so that concludes this, this slideshow and this presentation. Again, I apologize that I couldn't be in class, but thank you all for watching this. And I know we're going to have a great year. It's going to be fun. And again, don't be too anxious about it. Just develop good habits early on. Please do email me if you have any questions.